We get an awful lot of comments and questions about our podcast, especially when it comes to the Idaho 4 case. This episode is devoted to letting you know that we read them.
And, we've been making these videos for almost a year, and one thing is been consistent the whole time, and that's you guys have a lot of different opinions. We've been doing this podcast for nearly a year now, and we appreciate all your comments, all the subscriptions. You guys are awesome. And we've been doing some reading. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
So today we wanted to do something a little bit different and dive deeper into what people are saying, the comments that we get. A lot of the times, you'll have people feeling really strongly one way and people feeling really strongly the other. And I really appreciate that you guys contribute to the conversation, and it's always fun to read.
Well, yeah, you said that we appreciate all the comments. Every now and then we get one or two that we really don't appreciate, but that's okay. We read the good and the bad and the indifferent. So did you want to start off and read one or two of them?
Yeah, so I actually have, I wanted to start off with two comments because I think they do a good job at highlighting exactly what we're talking about here. So this comment, and let me see if I can move this bar over a smidge. So this comment was actually left on our secret reasons they'll never use a firing squad. So
oh yeah,
we have L-Wing over here, L-Wing 4321, who says, why would a law office presume guilt before trial? LE should be on trial, not BK. Investigate the frats, Moscow, compromised PD and FBI. And now, not maybe right after that, but another comment that I found on the same video, the same video we have here, Ruth, yeah, exactly, 100. Bryan Kohberger is innocent. He's been framed. He's the fall guy. And as he said, when they come back to Moscow to be exonerated, more people should have listened to that very important statement and clue that BK is not guilty. Now, we've never... I'll let you...
we get accused of all kinds of things, and we get accused on both sides of the thing that we've said he's guilty and we've said he's innocent, and we've never said either one. And if you read that little banner that we're running across the bottom of the screen now, and we run this banner or another one that says essentially the same thing, here at this law office, we respect the constitutional privilege that everyone has, the presumption, I should say, that all of those people who are charged with a crime are only charged with a crime, and they are assumed, I should say, they again are presumed to be innocent until such time as they are found otherwise at trial. So when a complaint is filed or an indictment is filed, as in this case, these are allegations. These are averments legally of what is thought to have taken place. And no one is guilty of anything until such time as either they are convicted by a jury, they take a plea, or they're found guilty. So I don't know where these comments come from. Sometimes, I don't know. I like to give our viewers a lot of credit because they're watching us, so they have a ton of credit. But sometimes I think people watch like maybe the first 30 seconds and then they comment and then they move on to the next podcast, which you shouldn't do. You should watch it all the way through.
Watch it all the way through and then watch all of our other videos when you're done.
Right. Leave them running.
Exactly. Just fall asleep to them. It's fine.
Right.
No, I definitely agree with you. And we have like a joke that we may or may not have mentioned on camera, but it's just like, we had one video where we kind of described, like, what camp do you lie on? Is he guilty? Is he innocent? And it's just like, for viewer speculation, like it was an open question. And it's so crazy, like what people infer from what we say. Like Andrew said, we are innocent till proven guilty, but we're not saying he's completely innocent. We're not saying he's guilty. This is all about, theory crafting and thought crafting and examining the situation for what it is. All right.
Right. And so, I find that it's always a challenge to make sure that we keep an open mind, open eyes, open ears, and take other people's comments to light. Because I remember early on when we first started doing the Kohberger case, I didn't know what to make of it. I really didn't. And then Doug Cope, who's no longer with us, started saying some things that opened my mind to it. At first, I didn't really agree with him, but the more I listened to him, the more I said, this guy makes sense. And so, we should always listen to people that don't agree with us, because that's just part of the analytical process, is just, listening to people that have other views. Okay, what's the next comment?
Yay. So we have Tommy Whitworth, 4531, who says, I can bet you playing with the dog sounds nothing like people being killed, and like they were. Oh, he had a part in it if he didn't do it himself. Please. And if y'all don't think they got so much more, y'all crazy. And what we need to know is why them girls did nothing.
Boy, there's several points in there. First of all, I play with my dog every day, and I don't think that sounds anything at all like multiple stabbings. That's number one. Number two, with respect to the girls, that's a really good question. It's an unanswered question. We've addressed it before, and some of our other commenters have said we're beating a dead horse, which is something that we addressed in a previous episode, that the horse is alive and well and still breathing until such time as the trial, because we don't know why Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk were in that house, allegedly, for many, many, many hours, 7 or 8 hours between the time of the crimes and the time that law enforcement was called at 11:58. And I have an interesting point that I haven't seen anyone else mention, but it is actually a crime to not report a felony. It's called misprision of felony. And Idaho has its own version. It is actually in the United States Code, and all 50 states have their own version of it. But if you know of a felony being committed, you have a legal duty to report that. And I have a problem with those girls being in that house. I'm not saying they did anything. Everything is alleged. Everything is averred. And I'm not accusing them of anything. But at the same time, it is quite odd that they were in that house, allegedly, at the times that the crimes took place, allegedly, and the crimes were not reported for so many hours. And then when they were finally reported and the police got there, lo and behold, there were an unknown number of people out there. And I say unknown because somebody's going to comment and say, we know it was 3. No, we know it was 5. There are different reports, but even the police chief had mentioned that when they first arrived on that scene, there were people there. So I find that to be a problem.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I mean, it's hard. Obviously, we weren't there. So, and this is a big part of contention in the comments too, where it's just like, why didn't they say anything? And people will have their own feelings, the frozen shock phase, all that. It's scary. Scary. I mean, I had a roommate that, I wouldn't check in on really, but at the same time, it sounds like these people had a better relationship where they, may be used to seeing each other in the morning. But
By the way, a frozen shock phase, there's no such thing diagnostically. There's no DSM on what a frozen shock phase is. And there's certainly no standards for how one diagnoses a frozen shock phase. And there's certainly no guidelines on how long a frozen shock phase takes place. So I'm not the only person that just finds that a little bit hard to swallow legally.
And something with frozen shock too, like the people came to the house. The fact that there was other people at the house, it just looks really bad optically. Like, I'm not gonna say one way or the other, but it's hard to be frozen in shock enough to not call the cops, and then your friends are there as well,
Right.
But some people panic and they need other people. But then why didn't the other people call? It's crazy.
Right.
Let me scroll up a little bit. So, I giggled at first because with the "do you really believe?" I thought we were going to get into another comment that's traditional, but Carol is actually being sweet. So Carol D. Arrow, 1920. Carol, there is no way. 1920, you were not actually born in 1920. I know that you'd be like 100 years old. Maybe something exciting happened for her then. With no hate for anybody who may be watching who's 100 years old, but good on you if you are. Do you really believe BK slaughtered these kids? BK being 7 years older than the victims and progressing with his great headway for his future career. Everything is speculation. Moscow needs to show what they have. Mr. Fry just retired recently. Why?
Good question.
Lots of good questions, Carol. I definitely like we said, everything is speculation. But that is one of the things where it's like we have someone who was, being college educated and was seemingly on the right track in life and doing well in his field, presumably, where I believe he was a TA. So the fact that you have someone who's seems to be doing well and who seems to be well versed in this to potentially be incriminated by cell phone pings and DNA, the driving, the cell phone pings. There's a lot of things that leave people really confused. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of Mr. Kohberger's past is going to be relevant in this trial. First of all, defendants 99.9% of the time do not take the stand in their own trials. For a couple of reasons. One, it's their right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. You don't have to take the stand. And number two is that, cross-examiners have a way of getting under your skin and asking the same question 14 times. And if on that 14th time you use slightly different verbiage than the other 13 times, they're going to go, aha, and argue that to the jury that, you can't even keep your story straight. So, it's unlikely that Mr. Kohberger would take the stand. But the reason I point all that out is the only thing that's really relevant in a trial is what happened at that time, at that place with those people, and what were the circumstances at that time. So sure, we can speculate, Mr. Kohberger had this kind of an upbringing. He had those kinds of, we've heard, he went out on dates. He tickled one of his dates, Is any of that relevant as to what happened on that day at that time? I mean, unless they have a specific theory of relevance as to his prior habits or his prior code of conduct, none of it's really relevant. And so I don't think any of that's really going to come in unless there's a special theory that he acted, consistent with something that he had done before. So I don't know. The only thing I really totally agree with here is that part of it is speculation.
Mm-hmm.
So
I liked how you phrased that answer, and I think people will appreciate that too. I think that's important to remember.
I love this comment. This is great. Love your channel. When I first heard Andrew, I was pretty sure he had a background in broadcasting. And yes, I do. And we've talked about that in previous episodes.
Yeah, I think it's really sweet. And that's one of the things that I tell Andrew about too, as we started our YouTube channel, where it is really nice having Andrew, who has experience in, you guys, I stumble over my words and sometimes don't have the right things to say, but I think Andrew does a really great job at
what
he does.
Thanks. I'll pay you later.
Compliments where they're due. So this is from our buddy Pete from Murder Metal Mayhem. So check out his channel. Andrew and Lainey, thanks for the mentions of my channel. I'm glad I got that interview, got both of you thinking and about why a lot of people enjoy watching you both. I enjoyed hearing you talk about that stuff on your channel. And this was on our video in response to Pete's video. We did a video with Murder Metal Mayhem on his channel. So this was just us kind of chit-chatting about it. It was a little nice, at least for me to see. I know Andrew likes getting the higher views, but it was still flattering to see we got a couple hundred views on our non-traditional video. So I'm glad you guys are sticking around for us and not all Kohberger. So that was nice. All right. So now this one is pretty long.
Oh, good grief.
We normally when we do comments in our videos, we normally stick with shorter comments. So I figured maybe include a couple longer ones here because we never really give you guys, we appreciate that you take the time to write stuff and we never really get to it. So I like animals more than people. I think a lot of people can agree with that, but they said, so let me get this straight. Withholding evidence and destroying the biggest piece of evidence, sketchy to say the least. This is in regards I'm assuming with withholding evidence with the request that they did and destroying the biggest piece of evidence. I'm assuming that's the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was also, which video was this on? So 5 more Kohberger's questions. So this was a little bit of a older video too, but recent comment. The 2 girls, I'm not blaming them for anything, but it just doesn't add up. If something terrified happened, there's no way I could just go to sleep or wait for the perp to come break my door / window. And so I'm guessing they didn't know some crazy shit happened, but even then, or some crazy bleep, sorry. But even then, the dog would have been trying to get out of that room. The house would have smelled. They called for help because they knew something happened, or they had to find the bodies themselves. None of it makes sense. I know you wouldn't sit in your room for hours if you had any idea where people were being stabbed. How do you know the killer's gone? I need this trial to be televised. I need explanations. Definitely agree.
Yeah, that's a good comment. And I mean, I agree with 99.9% of what this person has said. I mean, we already talked, and I'm not going to repeat myself. We already talked about the 2 girls, Bethany and Dylan. It doesn't add up. I already said that. It doesn't add up. And there have been cases of 5 and 6-year-olds observing a crime and calling 911. They had the acumen to pick up the phone and call 911. So it's just, and you add that to the fact that there was a latent footprint. So, if there's only a latent footprint, who cleaned the scene? Why is there only one? Did they wash all the other footprints away? It does not add up. It really just doesn't. The more you dig into this case, the less it adds up. And yeah, it's going to be televised. It's going to be on Judge's YouTube page. He has his own YouTube page, and it was used for hearings where you see a frontal view of the court. You see the prosecutors on one side and the defense table on the other side, and then in another square you see the judge. So yeah, it's our understanding that the trial will be televised, but the court will be in full control of the entire thing.
So I do want to say, I don't really remember why, but I was, you mentioned the latent footprint. That had me, I was thinking about that recently, just thinking about how crazy that was. And we mentioned it in our older videos, but just, I think that's something interesting to think about. But another thing, how you were saying with Judge's YouTube, I know one of my jokes is that I can't work in government because I know they don't have the budget for me. But it would be one day nice, maybe 10, 20 years to see a media coordinator for more state stuff, because the whole... I appreciate that they're trying to put it on YouTube and stuff like that, but having it on the judge's personal channel, like I think the courthouse needs its own channel. Having the cameras of the attorneys showing when they're not actually talking.
Well, now wait a minute. I don't see why they can't have somebody. The nation is, as we sit here now, $34 trillion in debt. The state of Idaho, as the other 49 states, applies for federal grants. You go into courthouses and you see people sitting at desks. They've got to be able to afford one person that can coordinate the media. Almost every town that I'm familiar with has a local media person, and they're usually fairly savvy as to setting up equipment, setting up microphones, setting up boom mics if they're required, making sure that the thing is televised properly. I mean, most towns these days have a fairly sophisticated local cable network that shows the town council, selectmen, city council, school board, planning board, zoning board, all the others, and they're capable of going out and covering things like the Veterans Day parade and things like that. So, you know what? No, they should be able to hire a professional, if the town does not already have one, to do all of that. So, I don't think there's any excuse. I really don't.
Yeah, I've definitely, it's funny. I do have a couple of friends that have come to me for some, just training with all the different stuff. And, it's hard to get into, but I definitely think that if you're going to be broadcasting someone, having a producer, is very helpful.
Yep, absolutely.
This one, Charlie, Charley. I'm assuming it's not Charlie. But I'm so sorry to hear about Doug. Condolences to all his family and friends.
Thank you.
For those of you who've been watching our channel for a while, you're probably familiar with Doug. Unfortunately, he passed in December, pretty unexpectedly. And we appreciate everybody being sweet. At least, even for me, I didn't know Doug nearly as long as Andrew does. Andrew's known Doug for decades on decades. And it's just really sweet hearing everybody and
yeah,
caring.
Speaking of having somebody that knows about media, I mean, I told the story about how when I first started thinking about doing these podcasts, I tried to do one. And in fact, I wasn't even going to use cameras. I was just going to, because I know a lot of people like to listen to books, and they like to listen to authors, and they like to listen to just audio podcasts. So I had heard that from a bunch of my clients and other people. So it was going to be just me, speaking. So I did it, and I did about 3 or 4 takes. And I think on the 4th one, I just said, no. So I called Doug, and, we had several long conversations of him, telling me, yeah, I bet, without even hearing it, I bet it was pretty awful. And then he gave me a lot of advice, and I listened, and he helped me set it up. And then once we started doing it, he would come on, and he would, he would do a lot of research, and he would, contribute a lot of information in terms of having some good commentary. And he had delved into this Kohberger case quite a bit, and he was the first one that alerted me, because at that point I had just kind of going, oh yeah, all right, I saw it on the news, yeah, he's the one. And then Doug says, wait a minute, do you know anything about touch DNA? And I said, no, not really. So he's the one that really pushed me to really set the thing up professionally and to really push the envelope in terms of doing tons and tons and tons and tons of research. So anyhow, yeah, we'll miss him. But thanks for the comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Shar. Yeah, good point. All good points. Yeah. So this is from Dar2970. I really enjoy your videos. I'm glad the horse is still among us. It made me think of Mr. Ed.
Mr. Ed, yes.
I had to ask Andrew who that was.
Yeah. Horse is a horse, of course.
The horse is a horse. The horse is alive. The horse is, yes. We're not beating the dead horse. This was on our video, 11 Reasons Kohberger Won't Face the Firing Squad. If you're confused about this comment, be sure to watch until the end.
Right.
Watch this video to the end, but also watch that video to the end. This one there's actually 2 from Mary. So Mary Uding 9701. You don't hide things if there's nothing to hide, ? Too many people are being protected. Why? This would not happen anywhere else. It's chaotic. I agree with you, Mary. This is all wild. The not doing the discovery properly, all of this is crazy. And I think that's a big reason why this case is so popular.
Yep. Yep. And people have told me, oh, well, they always save their evidence until the trial. Nuh-uh. I've been following true crime, for longer than I want to admit. And this trial stands out, or I should say this case stands out with regard to how much has been kept secret, how much has been redacted, how much has just downright not been released. And so that is why there's so much public attention to this case, because it stands out in the amount of secrecy that it has been veiled with.
Mm-hmm. So this one, I'm laughing. It's horrible. Laughter is the best coping mechanism for terror. Harvard Bodies for Sale episode. So this is not about Kohberger case. It's a little bit different, but this is as grim as it is. It made me giggle. So the first comment that Irish Babe had left was, I thought about donating my body to science, but now the idea of profiting off my corpse has made me feel completely different. Such a shame they did this. This is in regards to them selling bodies that were donated to Harvard University and finding out that these body parts are being sold all over the US. And then after that, I don't know how long after this, I don't know if they had this dealt with before, but I thought this was like morbidly funny. where Irish Babe then goes on to comment, I bought burial and life insurance. I hope things will go as planned with my death. And I think it's nice to have that stuff sorted out. You know, even if you're not even 30, 40, I think having an idea and trying to make a plan in case of emergency does take the burden off your loved ones. I think that's sweet. But in a grim sense of humor, I was like, damn, Irish Babe watched this episode, was like, oh God, maybe I shouldn't donate my body to science. And then to paused burial and life insurance. I imagine they had it before, but I thought that was an interesting combo of comments.
It was a really macabre case. And since we did that episode, there's been a little bit of an update, and that is that the morgue director at Harvard faced charges, as did his wife. Also, the two of them were from just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire, in a little town by the name of Goffstown. And the wife has now done a plea bargain. It has not gone to court and been accepted by the judge, but the wife has now taken a plea, so she will not be tried. The only one that will be tried is the husband, who was the director of the morgue. And if you're not certain what we're talking about, please check out that episode that we did about the Harvard body parts. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, and most people that are watching this, we're probably going to have Kohberger mostly in the thumbnail and title, because when that hits well into most of these comments are related. But I do want to say, if you're interested in the Kohberger case and you haven't heard about the Harvard bodies case, definitely check out our video, because I find it extremely interesting, and our videos don't normally perform well on it, but we keep doing it because it's just a crazy topic.
And one of the funny things about that case was that they said that they would mail these things out. You know, people would actually order them online, body parts online. Then they would mail them out from the post office. Well, when you go to the counter at the post office, unless you go to the automatic gizmo or it's already previously done and you just shove it in the slot. If you go to the window, because you have to have it weighed out, the person always asks you, does this package contain anything liquid, perishable, hazardous? And they go on with this whole list of stuff. And so what did they say? Just no. I mean, and when they ask you whether there's anything liquid, perishable, hazardous, do they ask, are there any body parts in there? No.
I want to know how they got any of this stuff mailed out. Because let me tell you, every time I go to that post office, those people give me a hard time. We're in New Hampshire. I've been to the same post office, and they don't like me at the desk.
Why don't they like you? They like me. I have friends at the post office.
Are better at sending letters. I just go there confused, alarm, trying to send letters to a bunch of different people.
I always get along with the people at the post office. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm the age that I am, and
they look at me and they're like, "You don't know how to mail."
My generation is the only people that are left using the post office. I don't know if you've checked, but they're going out of business. They have very little business, and they see you as a young whippersnapper. Get out of here, kid.
Go use Amazon.
Go back to your texts and your TikToks.
For real, I don't
know. I've never had a problem at the post office. I've actually got some friends that work or have worked there.
Well, I was just like, is there ever a girl with pink hair that you just, no, I mean, I don't think my hair was pink last time I went there, but I think there's like one case where like one of the workers took pity on me because I was clearly confused. But usually they're like, what is this girl? Like, what's wrong with her? Like, why can't she do this? I need help. That's why I'm at the desk. Come on.
Oh, just tell them you know me.
Yeah. Just go into the post office. Excuse me, do you know attorney Andrew Myers? Get me the special treatment. It's funny, Andrew, this was a while ago. This was actually when we first started our podcast, but somebody actually recognized him while he was walking his dog from the podcast. And I thought that was the most amazing thing. So if you ever go to the post office in Manchester and you're having a hard time, bring up Andrew.
Yeah. Actually, that's not the one. I have been there many times, but I usually go to a different one. But anyhow, so that's enough about the post office. Let's see. Oh, God. Love your hair. What were you saying about pink hair? Love your hair, Lainey.
This is from Karina. Karina? Well, I see a lot of comments complimenting my hair. I see you guys. I think about making a channel just so you guys know I'm replying to you. I love you guys. Thank you, everybody who compliments me and gasses me up. I see your comments and I appreciate them. And I just wanted to include that there to hype myself up, because thank you for hyping me up. So let's see, this was on our firing squad video, and Lady Phantom says, the world has been moving past death penalty. USA has been behind, but getting there, such a barbaric method like firing squad will not be utilized. States in Idaho, or statistics in Idaho alone show the practice is going away. 3 executions since 1977. Execution is the third most likely outcome of death penalty sentence. It's more likely the sentence gets overturned or execution never happens. This practice can also be abolished in Idaho in the years to come. And the fact that they changed this firing squad because they couldn't get the materials needed for lethal injection came to surprise me, because Lady Phantom is right in the sense that it's something that we've seen get kind of phased away, and the fact that it's developing a little bit was kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, I know I'll get comments for this, but the firing squad is still on the books in a number of states. The firing squad is still on the books in the federal government. And I just, yes, there are questions. Unless we're absolutely positively certain that the judicial system has been right on point and there's clear, convincing evidence beyond all doubt, I'm in favor of the death penalty. I don't see the purpose of keeping these people alive for 1,000,000 years. All they are is a drag on society. I am old enough to remember Charles Manson and people saying, oh, well, we should keep him alive. Just think of all we'll learn. We didn't learn a thing from him after they threw him in jail, and he just thumbed his nose at the system for all those years. So I know that I'm in a growing minority, but that's how I feel. I really do. I don't like it when people say, "Oh, all the other countries are doing this," because you know what? When you were a little kid and you told your parents, "Oh, the other kids are doing this," what did your parents say? If all the other kids jump off a bridge, are you going to jump off the bridge? So no, I think that if you have a clear-minded focus on what it's all about, and again, if the judicial system was clear. Then I don't have a problem with the death penalty. I really don't, and I'm not going to apologize.
Yeah, and I understand Andrew's point where it's like if somebody's convicted for killing multiple people, how people say like an eye for an eye. I'm a little bit of a hippie. A part of me wants to believe that everybody can get better, but I also can't even imagine how people do this in the first place. So I don't really know where I stand on the whole criminal justice system. I think I don't know. I don't even know how the criminal part of it happens in the first place, because I am someone like I park a little over the line and I'm traumatized for like until I move my car. Yeah, I do something bad and then I'm crying about it. I like say something that I think is rude and then I'm like wide-eyed wondering if that person's traumatized for life. So I can't imagine even killing.
Oh, let me read this one. This is from Purple Feather. I don't believe one person was involved. When they dropped the court documents claiming there were 3 unidentified male DNA profiles unrelated to BK, I wasn't surprised. I actually said, there's your answer right there. They went to the end of the earth to do some sneaky stuff to tie the touch DNA to BK. Why didn't they do the same thing with those 3 DNA profiles? It's like, keep it moving, folks. There's nothing to see here. While they're sweeping it under the rug. We didn't know anything about the 3 profiles until they were in court and Ann Taylor brought it up, or at least I hadn't heard it previously. And I know we had another comment that I read at some point where people said, it's not even relevant. It's not even going to be brought up in trial, so it's not important. Well, okay, if it's not relevant and if it's not important, just give it to the defense and move on. I just don't understand why it's been such a big issue, unless if they did something shady, maybe that's why they're not unveiling it. But I don't know. I don't think there's so many other issues in this case. I don't know why this one's an issue. Just make them turn it over to the defense and order the defense not to reveal it, because there is some confidential things. Maybe Mr. Kohberger's third cousin 14 times removed is, who knows, a judge or a pastor or an attorney or, something. And, they don't want their name dragged through the mud. So I can understand keeping it private. I don't understand not turning it over to the defense. I think it doesn't bode well for people's thoughts about this case.
Yeah, I agree with you with all of that. For whatever reason, the 3 DNA profiles on the knife kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit. This I definitely agree with you. Even if the information's not relevant, then that gives it more reason to just hand it over, you know.
Yeah.
So cause effect, group gang fraternity sorority effort, multi-leveled small town plus powerful connected gangs of people. The only reason to join groups are the connections and the assists that are offered. And this comment, I mean, it resonated with me for a couple different reasons. It kind of reminds me of what happened with Delphi, and when you have people commenting about like cops and stuff, that also makes me think of that. It's hard to say, but I just think about like we never really know what happens with groups of people. You never, like, I'm not gonna, like, obviously, like we said, innocent until proven guilty. I have no, you know, there's just all too many different elements in this, but um it's a crazy case that happened in the first place. It's not crazy to think that there could be other things, you know, gangs, fraternities, sororities. We don't know, but you know, it's not out of the realm of possibilities, and that's really sad to me.
Yeah, there are all kinds of theories and conspiracy theories out there, none of which really have any evidentiary support. So why don't we move on?
Yeah. Oh, cause and effect. This is the same person. There should be no giggling.
Oh.
That was like a horrible laugh.
All right, I'll try to remember that. No more giggling.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry if the headphones listening, that I feel like my voice cracked on that one, but I have no shame about the giggling. Originally, I felt a little bad because we did used to get a lot of comments. Oh, why is she laughing? Why is she laughing? I don't care about laughing. I'm sorry. You don't want to see me giggle? Go watch the news. I'm sorry. Like, what do you? It's
Lainey,
just like
Lainey brightens up the office, so if she wants to giggle, she can giggle. You know, I mean, we're serious enough. I think we've done our job in all of our episodes. You know, piercing into what the issues are, and if there are some moments of levity, that's just the way it is. I mean, who wants to just watch somebody sit there all boring all the time? You know. And
yeah, I
laughed. I giggled. Oh my God, shoot me.
I definitely agree where it's hard, especially it's hard topics that we cover here, and a lot of the stuff is sad, and a lot of those times there's nothing, you know, like it sometimes our episodes are a little bit more serious, but this is like some pretty messed up stuff going on. And one of someone that, you know, I admire had made a comment about when they were doing counseling with their family and their kid, that the counselor wrote in the notes like parents laugh too much, and that her response was, well, because everything's messed up, this is horrible. It's just like you need to laugh about something to keep yourself sane. The fact that any of this happened is ridiculous enough. You know, I think that you know, I think there's something refreshing in the fact that we're here to be able to talk about it today. Anyway.
And the other thing is that I've noticed other YouTubers, not that I watch any of them, but I do, you know, I'm learning. I'm still learning what this is all about. We've only been doing this for almost a year, so I'm still learning, and I do watch other people, and I see other people that do horrible, terrible cases giggling. I'm not going to mention any names, but I was actually watching a trial in the Hannah Gutierrez, case. That's the Rust trial, the Alec Baldwin armorer, when she was responsible for providing the guns and the ammunition when Alec Baldwin fired the gun that shot the director. And that's a horrible, serious, you know, thing. One person was killed, a young woman who was the director, and also one of the other people on the set was wounded. And I'm not going to mention any names, but she's a very well-known, famous YouTuber with the initials EB. And during her coverage of this, she's giggling and laughing. I mean, she's very serious and she's very good, and she's a good attorney, but she was laughing and giggling. So, and then there's another one. Again, I'm not going to mention any names, but his initials are CLR. And he frequently injects humor into his coverage. He's a very good experienced, certified defense attorney, and he provides some really insightful commentary. But he laughs. I was watching one the other day where he was laughing. So, you know what, we're not laughing at these cases. It's just that, you know, at times there is some levity. All right, enough said. Move on. Move on. No more laughing.
No laughing. No giggling. No tunnels. No horses. No.
Well, there are tunnels.
Oh, another comment. See, I unintentionally am pulling up all the comments that are gassing me up. Diana, thank you. But we got y'all are so cute. You got cute. You got called cute in there too, Andrew.
Oh, and the other one that we get that's so critical and important, they mention your pink microphone.
It's a little low right now, but we got this here. I recently got a little bevy fridge for my room, and unfortunately they had one online at Walmart that was $10 more for pink, so I unfortunately had to get the white one. I was devastated.
Yeah. Real serious podcasters use black microphones.
Yeah, I'm not serious. We're giggling here. But smallmouth guy 2264, new subscriber, very good vid. Thank you. We always appreciate that. I remember seeing the number go up, I think, when that one was posted, so that was funny. Timothy Freeshaw, he may not have committed the perfect crime. He may not have committed the crime at all. We love that. What is true is that the case against him has not been dropped in nearly 2 years, despite efforts by the defense to have it dropped. What is also true is that if Bryan did commit this crime, necessary information to successfully convict him has not been produced yet. That is not the same as innocence. It would be a failure of the system. When you add a second suspect to this case, the timeline works while also introducing doubt about Bryan's part, which would definitely work for the defense. So I thought this was a really nice, well-spoken comment. Like I said before, we don't usually read the long ones, but I do appreciate you guys take the time to write them.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And oh my God, this one's so Lainey isn't an attorney.
You're not.
From Jamie.
You're not an attorney. You're fired. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. I'm out of here. No, every time you guys comment, and this is probably let me make sure. But I think so no, this is not the one that I thought video. I thought it was gonna be. That was the firing squad video. But I've mentioned this a couple of times. I am a computer science student. I am definitely not super well versed in legality issues. That's why it's so great to have Andrew and hearing everything Andrew has to say. Every time you guys think I'm an attorney, I'm extremely flattered. I feel like a little dumb bumbling idiot, so I appreciate that.
She fixes stuff.
I fix things, yeah. When Andrew's computer, my headphones aren't connecting to his laptop, I am the savior. And I say that you guys might be thinking, what a weird problem. His computer's messed up. I don't even know.
All the time.
Yeah. It's my major, and I don't even know why it's doing that. So, but yeah, I'm definitely more of the tech thing. Sometimes we'll talk about like technology aspects to it, and I have a little bit more valuable insight. But a lot of the times, especially if I'm like quiet, it could be that I'm just like listening to Andrew's perspective on the legality. And I'm also I'm always quiet, so I'm not going to say that. And I think this is the last comment that I got. And this one is a little sarcastic, I think, but I thought it was funny because we were talking in the same video about
driving around,
being younger and driving around. Yeah. It's like, feels so cheap in America.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, feels so cheap in America. People can afford to just drive around all night long.
And I pointed out that I had spoken to a young woman who went to school in that area, and she said that's a thing. And the context of this is that when Mr. Kohberger's attorney released his alibi, that he was out driving around with no real destination and no witnesses, my first reaction was, wait a minute, And I think most people, that was the initial reaction, is that this is bunk. But a woman called me and we spoke on the telephone for a while, and now I wish I had recorded it. I'll have to go back my notes and see if I can find her. But she said that's actually a thing out there and I think that's what this comment is responding to, was that there's really nothing to do out there, as in a lot of towns. I mean, unless you're one of the in crowds and you can go to one of these parties, or unless you're into some of the university happenings, which, generally those things end earlier in the evening. You go around and you drive around. A lot of people have great stereo systems in their cars. A lot of people have really good sound systems in their cars. So they drive around. And I told a story about when I was a kid. I took a trip and just went nowhere and just drove around in my car. So then there was another comment that we don't have up on the screen that someone else had commented and wrote to us and said, yeah, that is a thing out there. People do just drive around. She said that she and her husband, like to get in their car and drive around at night because that part of America is very pretty, mountains, rolling hills, Snake River, especially when the moon is out. You have the moonlight, reflecting off all this stuff. So she said she and her husband do this. Remember, not everybody has a 9-to-5 job. People have different hours. I had a job once there. I didn't get out until 1 o'clock in the morning, so I was driving around at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning with a good reason. So, it is a thing. I'm not saying that the alibi is a solid alibi, because I think a jury is going to scratch their head at that one. But at the same time, it is a thing. It is a thing that people do.
Yeah, and with the fuel is so cheap in America, like that kind of being a joke, but it's also, I think, a little bit serious in a way too. I remember last time I was in Puerto Rico and I was like, oh, gas is cheap here. And then I realized it's not by the gallon, it's by the liter. And I'm like, oh, wait, just kidding. Gas, I mean, obviously that's an island, but gas was definitely pretty expensive there. I will say, not only do I have a history of going out, usually other people are driving, but I have definitely been in cars with no destination, just, driving around the same area, loops and loops and loops. But also my current relationship that's been going on for 8 years started because I was bored in the middle of the night and I just messaged this person to hang out with me in the car at a grocery store parking lot. And so we weren't driving around, but we were sitting in the parking lot just chatting with music playing and the car's AC and everything for 6 hours. So when you live in a small town in the US, the cars are the place to be, I guess. It's like I'm way past that. Yeah.
Think of it this way. Lots of people go for a Sunday drive. I remember my grandparents way back then, they would go for a Sunday drive after church. They would just drive around because that was a thing. And, in a beautiful spring or summer or fall day, people do just get in their cars. Where I live, it's only an hour to the beach. People get in their car and they drive over to the beach, or they drive up to the mountains, or they drive to the city. So it is a thing. It's just that different people do it at different times based on their schedules. So, again, I think a jury is going to have a hard time, if he had been in that area 12 times, and if his car was seen going here and going there, and if it does turn out that it was his car and that it did back up 3 times and that it did park in that area, he's going to have a hard time explaining that. But, what else is he going to say if that's what he was doing? I don't know, but it is a thing.
I do want to ban anybody from Chicago, California, specifically like Los Angeles, San Francisco area, anybody within 30 minutes of New York, anybody who lives close to a big city. I understand that this also might be a crazy theory to you because you probably can't even really drive at night without still having some type of traffic. So definitely a small town thing. But yeah, that was the last comment I had.
I grew up in a little town in Pennsylvania that it's known for other things. But one of the things that kids would do on a Saturday night particularly is drive the loop. You would go up this street and down that street and around the other street and over that street. And they would just do this continuously, and they would go around and around and around. It was called driving the loop. And, on a Saturday, you would wash your car. You'd make sure it was nice and clean. You'd polish the tires and the wheels. And then Saturday night, that's what you did. You drove the loop. And then my parents got divorced, and I moved to a different area in Pennsylvania. They did the same thing, only it was up and down the main street. They would go all the way down, turn around, then go all the way back. And the Dairy Queen and the McDonald's and the Burger King were regular stops on this driving back and forth. And then lo and behold, I move up to New Hampshire, And in Manchester, the same thing. At least at the time when I lived in Manchester, Manchester, New Hampshire is unique, and it's known for having the only main street that dead ends on both ends, Elm Street. Dead ends on both sides. And on a Saturday night,
Sorry.
Elm, the
Elm.
main drag, Elm Street. And the kids drive from one end to the other of Elm. They just drive up and down aimlessly until late at night. And you want to be seen. You want to be seen. You want people to see you and see that you have this souped up car and you've got it all jacked up. Or maybe in Manchester, it's more appropriate to say that you've got this truck.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so yeah, that's a thing. Why don't we close with one more little thing I wanted to take a look at? And this is an article that has just appeared in Newsweek. I used to read it all the time, not so much anymore. But it's talking about the change of venue. And I don't know. Why is Bryan Kohberger seeking a change of venue in Idaho? So the Newsweek article starts out that the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students is seeking a change of venue for the case after a tenacious media campaign to find out more information. Bryan Kohberger is expected back in court while his own lawyer makes the change of venue application. So Newsweek spoke to an attorney that has nothing to do with the case, because the attorneys that are involved in the case are under a gag order to not speak. So Newsweek spoke to New York-based attorney Colleen Kerwick, who told Newsweek that the media have shown such interest in the case that they are willing to go to court to have more information revealed, and that relentless coverage may influence a local jury. She said that both the trial court and an appeal court refused a media coalition's request to unseal evidence in the case. The media are tenacious in this case, she said. This motion for a change of venue relates to whether pretrial publicity affected the impartiality of prospective jurors, Kerwick said. And there's Mr. Kohberger in one of those close-up shots that the judge, Judge John Judge, who you see in the background, was not happy with. And that's one of the reasons he kicked the media out of the courthouse and took over the coverage himself. The attorney said that the judge will have to consider several factors. For example, was there inflammatory or inaccurate news? Were prospective jurors exposed to selectively packaged stories? And then have prospective jurors been subtly conditioned to accept a certain version of facts at trial? If so, the constitutional balance would swing in favor of assuring a fair trial in another venue. I would only point out that that's not really the touchstone as to whether you can get a fair trial or not. The touchstone isn't necessarily that there was coverage, accurate or not. The touchstone is that the juror can serve impartially. In other words, despite all of the coverage, and even if the prospective juror says, yeah, I saw it on TV, I saw it on YouTube, I saw it in the newspaper, as long as they can say honestly, and the attorneys have to be convinced, as long as the prospective juror says that they can remain unbiased, then that's a proper juror.
I have a question with that.
Sure.
So in that situation, like you said, like, because theoretically the jury could be partial in one way or another, like say theoretically too, if you ask them like, with this coverage, like, do you still feel safe like in Idaho? And if they were to say no because of that, wouldn't that also kind of be considered as not impartial?
What do you mean? That they don't feel safe?
Yeah, like if they like have some type of feelings, like they were affected by the information of the trial in a way that, you know, like they have some feelings about where they live because of it, is what I'm curious of.
Well, yeah, that's certainly a consideration. And I don't know what that court's policy is with respect to sequestration, but that's one of the things that can be done. But it's also one of the reasons that courts always in every criminal trial direct that the cameras not show the jurors. And you know, way back in the days when I was a reporter, we were under strict instructions: do not show a juror. And all the trials that we've been seeing, the Murdoch trial and the trial that I was watching at the time that we recorded this, the Hannah Gutierrez trial, you don't see the jurors. You know they're there because the attorneys are directing their arguments to the jury, and they're making sure, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to publish this exhibit to you so you're aware that the jurors are there. But that is a very strict policy that is the court's response to your concern that, safety of the jury is in fact a really strong thing. And the media is directed, do not approach these jurors. Now, the jurors are free to go to the media, which happened after the Murdoch trial. 3 of the jurors ended up on Good Morning America. So, the jurors are free to do that. But if they feel in danger, they are protected by the courts. And there was actually a case in Boston a number of years ago where one of the photographers, one of the TV photographers from a certain station that will remain unnamed, but in any event, had gone out and during the Aaron Hernandez trial, had gone out and videotaped one of the jurors. And that videographer was called into the court and given a tongue lashing and told, you will not air that. So it's something that the courts do correctly protect. So I hope that answers your question.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Good insight.
So we're almost done here, but let's take another look at this Newsweek article in which the attorney told Newsweek Idaho Code 19-1801. Everybody look that up, which provides that a criminal action prosecuted by indictment may be removed from the court in which it is pending on the application of a defendant on the ground that a fair and impartial trial cannot be had in the county where the indictment is pending. And that comment is interesting because the initial motion by the defense was that, no, we'll have the trial here, but let's bring the veneer in from another area of the county or from another county. So they didn't necessarily feel that the trial had to change its location, but perhaps the jurors be brought in. So that's always a difficult thing. In the motion seeking to change the trial venue, Taylor argued that a fair and impartial jury cannot be found in Latah County due to the extensive inflammatory pretrial publicity, allegations made about Mr. Kohberger to the public by media that will be inadmissible at his trial, the small size of the community, the salacious nature of the alleged crimes, and the severity. Well, you can't really nail that one on the media, the severity of the alleged crimes and the salacious nature of the thing. Then the media had nothing to do with that, so I don't see how that's relevant. But I've always found that change of venue motions were somewhat difficult in that, in this trial particularly, here we are on the other coast talking about this, and we're only one of many, many, many. I have no airs about this. Newspapers in England and all over the United States, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, the media all over the place and on YouTube covers this trial. So I don't see how going to another county in Idaho is really going to escape that. They're just going to really have to do very strong questioning of the jury. Voir dire is what it's called legally. Making sure that the jurors can, in fact, be impartial. And that can take time. And it's not unheard of for a jury to not be seated because they went through so many people in the pool, none of whom could be seated, that they then go to jurors in another county. One thing that's done often in a motion for a change of venue is that they'll do a survey. This takes money, of course. You've got to pay a survey company to come in and go through people that live in that county and ask them their opinion and whether, despite what they've heard about the case, they can, in fact, be impartial. So I don't know if you're going to find anybody that hasn't heard about this case. And if you do you really want them on the jury? Somebody that's done nothing? Somebody that's living in a cave? I don't know. So Those
I
are
was
my
thinking
thoughts.
they gotta get me like from 2 years ago to work on this case because I would have had no idea what's going on. But like you said, it's just like if they don't know what's going on in the world, do you even want them because something's a little off?
I
I
know.
agree.
It's just, it's been on the news every single night. So, or if it hasn't been on the news, it's been in the newspapers and it's been on YouTube and it's been just everywhere. So, anyhow, any closing thoughts?
Just keep commenting, guys. Thank you so much for everything you say. Like I said, we appreciate when you guys have long, insightful things to say. We don't always get to it. Let us know if you liked this episode because I would love to keep doing episodes like this. Thank you guys so much.
And yeah, thank you very much. Please subscribe and like, and don't forget to share with your friends. We hope you've enjoyed this. We do read our comments as we've just proven to you, but please be polite, be respectful. Remember, when you see people, you don't know what they're going through. And also, in addition to that, it's always good to keep our eyes and our minds and our ears open because you never know. You might learn something. So having said that, I hope you all have a good day. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
And that's that.
And that's that.
No giggling.
This
no tunnels. No dead horses.
This news just in, there are tunnels. There are many tunnels.
No tunnels. No dead horses.
And you know what's
no
in
giggling.
Those tunnels? Horses.
No
there are horses.
No dead horses.
There are live horses in those tunnels.
Nope.